Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
Do you ever hunt up in Manitoba?
No, I never have.
I know a lot of people from Minnesota traveled up there. We've obviously traveled up to Saskatchewan to do it, but some regulations have been rumored for a few months now about changes for non-residents going up to Manitoba. Well, those rumors have, for the most part, been confirmed. The province of Manitoba put out some new changes. There's a little bit of difference in what we've been hearing. There's now going to be a non-resident license draw for waterfowl hunters, and we've been told that will be 100% successful, that draw. Now, the language that I'm reading states that it'll be 100% this first year, and then they'll look at it. I think it's given them some wiggle room. If they need to change things, they'll be able to. But what I've been told by various people is that draw will always be 100% successful. That remains to be seen, but they're saying that ideally that'll always be successful. It's a way for them to track how many non-resident hunters are coming, where they're going, what they're doing, essentially just so they can keep a handle on the resource. Because what they want to do is protect resident hunters, protect some of the resources for residents. So they're going to limit non-resident hunters in Manitoba to only 7-day trips, 7-day licenses by draw. This year, at least, it'll be 100% successful. And then, or you can go through you can get a 7-day foreign resident migratory game bird license through a licensed Manitoba outfitter. Or you can qualify as a land interest holder and receive a grandfathered foreign resident legacy migratory game bird license. So if you own some land up there, then you have a special license. Basically, they're trying to keep non-residents from leasing up all the land. Now, as you guys have noticed, I mean, we've talked about it here on this show quite a bit, that the number of waterfowl hunters seems to be dwindling, but especially on opener, what's it like out there when we go hunt out there?
It's busy.
It's crazy. There's people all over the place. So it's such a weird dynamic when you hear about a drop in license numbers, yet you always see a ton of hunters out there. So are they all just going to the same place? Are they all hitting community spots? Or, I think what I see the most is if numbers are dropping, obviously the last couple of years with COVID, I think numbers either stabilized or went up, probably. But I think you see waterfowl hunters are getting, the hardcores, the guys that'll always do it, that have always done it. They're the ones that are doing it the most and out there all the time. And they're probably the ones leasing up some of the land to protect. When you have a big investment like waterfowl gear, you want to have the most success as possible. And if you're spending a lot of money on gear, you're probably going to spend money on a spot to lease up if you have the opportunity as well, too. So what's happening, I think, is there may be fewer hunters because access is getting more limited on where they can go. And that, to me, limiting access is the number one reason why you see a decline in license sales. There are obviously other factors out there, but I think limiting access is number one. So what they're trying to do is stop the limiting of access for particularly Manitoba residents. So you can read all about the new regulations at sportingjournalradio.com. And they're also dropping the number of licensed outfitters in Manitoba for this. They're cutting 2/3 of them out because they either weren't using their tags or they weren't properly reporting non-resident hunter numbers. So they've got a smaller number of outfitters available for this, so they're going to protect the local economies, the local outfitters.
I don't think they're protecting the local economies by putting a restriction on non-resident hunters. Let's clarify that.
Yeah, that wasn't maybe the right word for it, but I think what they're trying to do is, when I say local economies, I meant it in a sense that the local businesses like a guide or outfitter, because they're giving them more business, probably, in the sense that you can't freelance as much as you used to be able to, theoretically. Although if they're going to do 100% draw, you could still go up there and freelance. You just can't do it for more than 7 days. So if you ever took more than one trip up there, you're probably going to be limited to one trip. But otherwise, you probably won't see a lot of changes. And realistically, how different is this than what you see in the Dakotas?
Right.
It's pretty similar. You got the draw in South Dakota, and then you got the 2-week or so whatever restriction in North Dakota. So it's really not that different. It's a little unfortunate because when you do go as far as you go up to Canada, ideally you want to make it as long of a trip as you can. and maybe make multiple trips if possible. But
Well, let's be real though. I comment below. I'd be curious to know how many people A, take a trip more than 7 days, B, take multiple trips to Canada. I mean, it's not when you're
Probably
working a regular 9 to 5 days a week. That's not happening. You and I are fortunate enough to get to do that. But I mean, David, could you even do that?
Depending on the time of year.
Just fall? I mean,
Fall,
September,
no.
October?
No, that's why I've never gone to Canada. It's just never works out with harvest, and I've always wanted to, but.
And I agree with you, Dan. I think there's just a very select few that would have that ability, like us. We have the ability to go up there multiple times or go longer than that. So I don't know how big of a change it's going to be in Manitoba, but those are the new rules and restrictions. A lot of people were up in arms about it, and I think it's the small number of the hardcores out there that hunt all the time, hunt all season, take a lot of trips. When you talk about diminishing license sales, I think where you're seeing the diminishing areas is the weekend warrior guys, the guys that don't have a lot of time to go. So when they finally do get a weekend to go or whatever, and they show up somewhere and there's already a guy there, or the land got leased up from underneath them. Now they're angry. They spent all that time. They got up early. They drove all that way. They don't get to hunt anymore. That's the guy that next time says, I don't know if I want to go.
Yeah. Well, do you want to fight crowds, or you can hop in a boat and go fish?
Yeah.
I've questioned that sometimes too, and I love duck hunting.
Right. And that's, this discussion is about Manitoba, but realistically, this could be about anywhere. We could be talking about this in North Dakota, Montana, Saskatchewan, Minnesota, wherever. It's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed and looked at. And, maybe just the waterfowl hunters, it's just going to be, it's not going to be a hugely participated event like it used to be, just because now it's a little more specialized, almost like deer hunting in a sense, where guys are managing their own property. You have a lot less access to deer hunting land too, because guys are bow hunting and using trail cams and setting up refuges and limiting access to properties. So to me, access is the number one reason why you're seeing hunting license sales go down.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts.